Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and these are Charter Moms chats where we go live to share information with families so they can find schools that are the right fit for their children. And we've been talking to schools about enrollment season, but today is sort of a variation on that. It's also charter school application season. So the Gen 28 applications are due in early November. And so today we're talking with Joe Higgins, who's the superintendent of Titus Academy, which is a proposed charter school that, if all goes well, would open in August 2025 on the north side of San Antonio. So we get to talk to Joe about the school model, about what he hopes Titus Academy will become. I also want to mention that on etsychartermoms.com, we've got a new blog post that also describes Titus Academy, has links to their website and ways you can get on the interest list to get updates. So, Joe, thank you for joining me on Charter Moms Chats.
Inga, thank you for having me and look forward to the talk.
Yeah. Okay. So let's like kind of start with the basics. So you talk about the mission and vision of Titus Academy.
Yeah. So in my prior life, back until about 2018, I used to be a charter school CEO in an organization that grew in Arizona and Colorado. Left there, and I've been helping groups and homeschool communities and different people around the country make their dream of a classical ed kind of come together. And I've been looking to get back into the superintendent role and lead that day to day. So what our school is proposed to be is a K-8 classical education, which is somewhat more common than it was when I first got into it. A lot of work's been done to kind of get that message out. But we're bringing in a Charlotte Mason influence into that. So that's part of our mission. And classical ed is based on the great thoughts of Western civilization. We do some Eastern Civ, a lot of the classical literature, art and music, all those good things. Character education is a very big part of what we do. In fact, I've kind of combed through all the research, come up with a 10-point character ed program that implements into the school, a big part of what we do every day, integrates right into the curriculum and kind of an everyday, all-day thing. Rigor, academic rigor, so we're kind of raising that bar. And a lot of writing, classical reading, and then a big part of it is partnering with parents. So kind of knowing coming in that parents are, of course, a client and a partner of ours, and just walking together side by side with those parents.
Yeah, thank you. Well, that's a great summary. I encourage everybody to go to the Titus Academy website. There's a link in the blog post, and that has a great description of the mission and vision and some great infographics and things like that. You guys are very good visual storytellers. So I want to ask a follow-up on you mentioned classical education and Charlotte Mason. And I know there are folks in San Antonio who are already practicing Charlotte Mason style homeschooling. And there are already classical education charter schools in the San Antonio area. So like you said, it's a growing movement and there's more interest among families. But for maybe families with younger children who aren't familiar, can you talk more about classical education and Charlotte Mason in turn so families kind of know more what to expect?
Of course. So Charlotte Mason was a late 1800s, early 1900s educator out of England. And there we go. Respect for the child as they are. And so some of that, the way that looks like in the classroom is read aloud from the teacher in a little bit more advanced classical novels, copy books. So the kids are building their own textbooks instead of reading a textbook. And then so they build something all year long, and then that comes home and is shared and kept forever. Nature study is a big component. So instead of just basic science textbook work, they're outside, they're experiencing, they're tactile, they're feeling. A little bit like a Montessori, but a little more structured. And it blends in perfectly with classical ed because classical ed can be a little stoic, a little tight. And by adding in that Charlotte Mason, it makes it much more experiential and much more kind of fun, if you would. It's in fact, just to give you guys some stats, the school choice movement, the charter school movement in Texas, that about 6% of the students are enrolled in a charter. Nationally, homeschool has grown also to 6% of the total children in the country that are being schooled. So what I've done in the past, and what we're proposing with this school, is to blend those communities together. Basically create a little area or a room or a spot where homeschool families can come and join and relax and enjoy, and then integrate into the campus where it makes sense and where it logistically works. Um, the idea would be everybody in the homeschool world can follow along. We've developed these lesson cards that for every subject and every grade. That's just a big outline of where we're going. And that allows that homeschool family to be on the same page by grade and by subject. And focus groups, one of the biggest fears homeschool families are having is, am I on pace? Am I on pace? Am I doing it right? Am I on the right level for my child? So by integrating them into the classroom teacher, they can stop and ask a question, they can book some time, and just we're all on the same page. And then sometimes in the homeschool world, certain grade levels get a little trickier as they get older or younger, whatever. Then they have a relationship with us to enroll in the campus or back out. So it creates this environment that's a good handshake. I've done it before, beautiful when it works, and that's what we're proposing.
Yeah, no, that makes so much sense with what I've heard and what I've observed with families. Like like you said, the stats back it up that there's been a dramatic growth in homeschooling because families wanted more control. They didn't want to be pushed one way or another based on what was happening with quarantines or masks or school safety, things like that. And but parents have that fear of like, well, how do I like? I mean, that's how I felt when I homeschooled my son for first grade. It was like, what if there's a gap? Like, well, what if we're behind on something? And it turns out he did get a little bit behind on math and on handwriting, and thankfully we were able to get support for that on campus when he went to school in second grade. But it's scary, and like having resources to turn to and guidance, like it really fills a need. And I like how you guys see it. It's not a sharp dividing line between, oh, this is the homeschool world and this is the charter school world. That on the charter school side, you also want to have that close partnership with parents so that like if parents know what the curriculum is going to be following, then they know what to talk about at the dinner table. They can be real partners in education. Can you talk more about that, like the sort of parent partnership that you envision?
Yeah. So when this all kind of started and things were going well, enrollment was strong, I was asking our parents, how are we different? What works in our school, and why is this unique to why this is happening? What this magic was? And they would say the dinner table conversations are just off the hook. The kids come home excited about talking about their subjects. So I started on this about 7 or 8 years ago, a model where we'd have something that could sit on the kitchen table, and the mom or dad could say, "Wait, tell me what you did today," and there'd be a little bit of a knowledge, not like a textbook, but just outline of what was happening. So from that, we branched that same concept into the homeschool market. I mean, that's the goal. We're not launched yet. This will be part of our launch if it works out well in Texas. And what that does is it gets everybody on the same page. And then what certain states have done, because the homeschool market's growing so quickly, is create either a revenue situation where there could be a shared revenue, or some like Colorado has a program where if you enroll 1 day a week in an enrichment program, then there's some revenue to the school. Or some states don't do that. Texas doesn't have anything like that. But how do we blend those two populations? And when we a lot of the homeschool families were enrolling in our campus, so we started asking them what were they teaching at home, and they either are textbooks, so they just go buy textbooks and get textbooks and teach like one subject at a time, unschooled, which is kind of a little more free flowing and kind of at their leisure, Charlotte Mason, or classical. So because we were a Charlotte Mason classical model, and that's what we're proposing here at this new campus, those families naturally integrate and come our way. So by having a roadmap that they can stick with us, and having opportunities for our teachers to connect with them and them to ask a question to a teacher or ingrain into the campus at some level, we think that's a growing area, and there's a big need for that. We want to be there for that.
Yeah, yeah, and also putting so much thought into the curriculum from the get-go provides support for teachers too, because I think that's one of the stressors that teachers have is like, oh my gosh, I'm teaching and I'm lesson planning, and what am I supposed to cover?
Right. And learning a new model and understanding their culture and professional, a lot of Socratic discussions. The character ed piece, what I found is usually around September, October, we'd have to sit down with new teachers that come in and say, look, slow down. Our job here is to connect with kids and to teach the bigger values and virtues beyond the test that they need to pass the year. And believe it or not, because they love school and they love the connection and the teachers cared and there was a relationship, those test scores were off the charts and did very well. So it's kind of the chicken or the egg, and private schools have been doing it for a couple hundred years. Homeschool's been doing it for a long time. What this does, and this model we're proposing, is kind of comb through the research, systematize that, and allow us to bring it into a charter school movement for those families.
Mhm. So, I know that, like, it's a little harder talking about school that doesn't exist yet, but, well, what kind of school culture do you envision evolving at Titus Academy? And maybe you could refer back to, like, schools you've helped lead in the past, or, kind of your research with talking to homeschoolers about what they're looking for?
Right. So we're proposing a K-8. We'll probably open the first year K-6 and then ramp up and grow into that. Um, we're going to bring in a house system, which, think of it like in Harry Potter, where you're the house Slytherin or whatever the houses were. So grade bands are in one of four houses, and then we ask the parents to come in and lead those grade bands. So anything we do with the school, any kind of event like a pep rally or an event, or let's say fall festival or the Christmas celebrations, whatever they may be, each of those houses take lead. They do service projects out in the community, and it's as powerful as those parents that are engaged that run those houses to see how much can happen and how unique that can be. And what we're doing is connecting older kids and younger kids. Classical ed studies of time and history, so we're letting those kids fall through and create long relationships and feel like they're part of a tribe and part of a group inside of a bigger group. So that is great for culture, because then you have a friend, you have a buddy, you have younger kids have someone to look up to, older kids are learning the role of mentoring, and it's works beautifully. So that's something we're bringing in and want to do. I've test piloted in a couple of different campuses, and it's amazing. And parents give them a chance to plug in. There's a little bit of competition that goes on, Christmas caroling, going to the skilled care homes and speaking with senior citizens. I mean, there's no end to what can be creatively done. So that really helps build the culture. Number two, our partnership with the parent is such a big part of our mission that parents are engaged. Grandparents' Day, we're really bringing that full community into our campuses.
Yeah. Well, yeah, no, the house system thing is great because, like you said, there's certain behaviors and cultures and traditions that need to get passed on from the older students to the younger students, and then the younger students don't feel lost. They've got somebody who feels like a near peer who could be showing them, modeling that hopefully that the right kind of behavior that the character education is building, and like you said, bringing parents involved. And I like the fact that it's got all these elements of like sports and competition, but also the service aspect, because that really broadens kids' horizons, and it changes their sense of their place in the world. And it's not all about them; it's also what they can bring, what problems they can solve in the world.
And boy, are we hungry for that right now, So I saw my own kids. They had an eighth grade buddy with a kindergartner. Then the eighth grader would leave, and then that kindergartner wouldn't have that connection. So if we do it intentionally, a little deeper, a little lower, they can build those relationships over multiple years. And they come up with a house name, and they get a house crest, and they have a cheers and chants, and it just becomes a big culture builder, and it's amazing to see happen. So
Yeah. Well, so you've shared some details already. So you mentioned that the school would hopefully open with grades K through 6, and then adding 7th and 8th grades, right? So build out to a K through 8 school. I know you had mentioned to me earlier that you're looking kind of at the north side of San Antonio, but I guess you can't say much yet about the location because it's kind of too early to go shopping for land, right?
right. So there's kind of a charter island or a choice island north of the 1604 and east of the 281, kind of where Community Bible is in that general area. Not a lot of options. And we think with the growing homeschool up there, classical ed Charlotte Mason, that connection is going to be a great fit. So that's what we're proposing. And to your point, once we go through this political process and get approved, God willing, then we'll look for land and start that process as well. So.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good. Well, okay. Well, I want to make sure that families know how to get more information, how to connect. And actually, there's something coming up very soon, right? Where there's an
Yeah.
event that families can attend.
Yeah, tomorrow night at Encino Library in our area up there on Evans Road. We're doing an information session, a lot of the things we're talking about here, and then more Q&A and questions that parents may have and want more specifics on. And I'd encourage anybody that is a grandparent or a parent or just interested, community leader, someone from the chambers or anyone out there that is interested to stop by. Also, I'm connected through the website there at titusacademy.org. So if you have a specific question, an idea, a conversation, something you like that I've said that kind of sparks something, I'd love to talk through that. All the things we're talking about, these curriculum pieces aren't ready yet. They're not out on the market, but as they become available, as we get closer to open, that could be something that, regardless of who we are, could be something you can become part of the classical at Charlotte Mason movement.
Yeah, well, I feel very lucky. I've got a few to play with myself, so they're very cool. Like they have a little hole that you can put a ring through, and they're laminated, so you can have them at the dinner table, and it's okay to have pasta sauce and things like that.
And kids get them and they're like, oh, this is great. Point. So it's not past answer the questions at the end. It's just big overarching, and you are exploring with your child, or the teacher is exploring and what they're all interested in and moving towards that. So it's not, we're not telling you facts, figures, dates. We're letting you experience it at a bigger level. And that's what classical education is. That's what Charlotte Mason is. And that's why it's so beautiful.
Yeah. Well, I want to reinforce kind of the action steps, like what families can do. So, when our interview today is Monday, October 10th, is for in case anyone's listening later, and in case anyone's just listening to the podcast and doesn't have the screen where we have the graphic. But so the information session is Tuesday, October 11th, starting at 6:30. So Encino Library, it's in that area of town that Joe was talking about, which is sort of north of Loop 1604, east of 281. There's really no other charter schools in that region, but it's a really fast growing part of San Antonio, and like you said, lots of active homeschoolers, who might want a little extra support, or maybe when their kids get older and the math gets a little harder to teach, maybe they're ready to transition to a charter school setting. And then the website is titusacademy.org. That's TITUS academy.org. And as Joe mentioned, there's a contact form, I think, right? And then there's like an interest list form, so families can sign up to get updates about things like, right? So like at some point next spring, maybe you guys will be driving up to Austin, and there will be a point where the community can show support for the Titus Academy charter application.
And you can fill out the interest form. That helps with the application process, but more importantly, lets us communicate with you as to how we're coming through the process of approval, where we're looking at actual location once it's ready, and the dates and times to get enrolled. So it's non-binding, but it keeps you in the loop of kind of what we're doing. So jump on titusacademy.org. You'll see the enrollment form, and put your information in, and then we'll be able to have a way to keep connecting back with you.
Mm-hmm. And of course, we'll keep sharing in the SA Charter Moms discussion group on Facebook. So I just put that up on the screen. So if you search San Antonio Charter Moms discussion group, it pops up, but it's also SA Charter Moms discussion is the URL. So we'll be posting updates about Titus Academy in the Facebook group.
And Inga, we've known each other a little bit now, and I've got to look into your heart and see what you're doing in this effort with Charter Moms, and unbelievable. And I wish this was in every other market in the country. I get the chance to kind of see the world a little bit through the classical lens. And what you're doing is a great service, just informing and letting folks know what's available, how it works, and what might fit their child. Not every child fits every model, and this model I think is great, but there's others, and I really appreciate what you've done and given us time to communicate to your members.
Well, that means so much to me. I feel like sort of pastoral towards the SA Charter Moms community. I really want to help them. I'm not telling them what's the best school or what's the best option, but they're hopefully if they spend some time in our group and on our website, they'll be much better informed, and then it will benefit their kids. And I think that's what every parent and caregiver wants, is to prepare their kids for the future with the best tools, the best allies that they have. And I think Titus Academy would bring something to the San Antonio education scene that we don't have anything quite like that, right? So there's there are Charlotte Mason home educators, but there's no Charlotte Mason in a charter school setting, or even private or public school setting. And it's something that comes up in the group. People ask about it, and then people are like, yeah, that's a good point. We don't really have anything like that yet.
Yeah. Well, and you've talked about your family's journey from homeschool to charter and different styles. Mine too. I have two kids, and they went through private Catholic education, and that was a struggle to do, and not everybody can afford that. But everybody's different, and every story's different. And your child, even like your family, can get changed over time, and you match that change and help place your children where they will thrive and be the best that they can be.
Yeah.
So keep it up.
Thank you. Well, well, I appreciate that. Okay. Well, let me put the website on the screen one more time, titusacademy.org. So that's where families can they can fill out the interest form to get updates. They can get more details about that event that's on Tuesday night at the Encino Library. Yeah, and I hope more families can have these kind of conversations with you and get their questions answered about they can play with the curriculum cards too and get a closer look at what you're building.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, thank you again for your opportunity and time. We'll see you tomorrow night. Jump on the website, titusacademy.org, and get your name on the list, and we'll keep communicating with you through that. And just wish us luck through the application process. It's interesting.
It is. It is. Okay. Best wishes, Joe. Thanks for coming on the
Thanks
show.
much. All right.
All right. Take care.